Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, controversy hounds the government's push for federalism.
Is there even an amount you can give me how much the proposed federal government that they have crafted will cost?
With economic managers citing possible risks.
Quite frankly, I was more confused than when I started.
If this draft is now presented for ratification by the people, assuming this is a draft, you will vote no.
Absolutely.
As inflation hits another record high. Also, is the Senate keen on pushing the tax reform law?
So dito sa train 2, mukhang makikinabang talaga rito yung mga small and medium enterprises.
And a Senate probe on alleged anomalous tourism ad deals. Senator Chiz Escudero joins us live. And later, what would flags and symbols of Philippine federal states look like? This millennial from Maguindanao imagines them in this impressive concept art. That's for today's In Focus. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. Malacanang maintains that federalism is still a priority, even after the president's economic managers expressed apprehension on the proposed shift to a federal form of government. The palace now also challenges cabinet members to come up with alternatives to the consultative committee draft charter. And the inflation rate hits another record high. Prices of goods and services continue to rise. We get to know the fate of the tax reform law at the Senate. Let's go straight to the source of the story. Senator Francis Chiz Escudero. Senator, welcome back to the show, sir. Good to see you again.
Pinky, good morning sa ating televiewers. Magandang umaga.
So, the shift to federalism was obviously talked about. It was discussed during a Senate hearing, and I believe it was through your prodding that so much has come out. Let's begin with Secretary Dominguez. Let's clarify this, Senator. He says that he was against this proposed federal form of government. Is that correct, sir?
He said, as written, he will vote against it. Because apparently, according to him, when he talked to the Consultative Commission, he was more confused after 2 hours of talking to them. And I'm quoting him. I'm not inventing it.
Let's not quote him. Let's listen to his exact soundbite.
I was more confused than when I started. So it's good that it's being discussed by the...
So that if this draft is now presented for ratification by the people, assuming this is a draft, you will vote no.
Absolutely.
All right, so is he against federalism or not?
I don't think he's convinced, let's put it that way. And a lot of people are not convinced because the draft federal constitution is actually an incomplete document. It's not perfect. That's why I'm surprised with some of those who wrote it, who keep on saying that it should be accepted, hook, line, and sinker, as if they're the only ones with the best intentions and they're the only ones with all the wisdom to know what's best for our country. If I were one of the economic managers of the president, the economy is growing at 6.6%, grew at 7% last year. Why would you change anything? As the saying goes, if it ain't broke, why fix it? And this shift would affect that growth, definitely, especially given the fact that they don't know the cost of federalism. When they were asked, or when you ask any of the proponents of federalism, they cannot even give a figure.
There was an approximate by Secretary Pernia.
Yes, but he excluded the bigger Congress, he excluded the regional governments, and he excluded the other allied factors that he said he cannot possibly compute.
Yeah.
So if you exclude that, the estimate really of about, I think, 100 billion, 100 billion is far-fetched. I'll give you an example, Pinky. The Senate from 24 will increase to, I think, 18 times 236. The House of Representatives will increase by 100 members. And then you will have aid for political parties. And then you will create regional governments with its own regional legislative assemblies, on top of the barangays, on top of the cities, on top of the municipalities, and on top of the provinces' legislative assemblies. Quite frankly, I don't know how much the bill would be.
You know, let's make it very simple, sir. As you mentioned a while ago, you have growth steadily increasing. Why change the Constitution? So to you, cha-cha is not a good idea.
I'll make it simpler. What are the top problems that we are facing right now? Ask anyone. They'll say criminality and or drugs,
Poverty.
traffic, poverty, rising prices. What else? Let me see.
Okay,
Corruption.
yeah, poverty, yes.
How will federalism
Jobs.
address that?
Yes, so categorically, cha-cha to you is a no-go.
No, because they can't answer those 5 questions. I'm waiting for them to convince me and answer those simple 5 questions. So, let's say criminality and drugs. The president has been at it for the past 2 years. And he's a staunch advocate of the anti-drugs campaign. What if you have a governor, for example, who's not only not as staunch, but is actually part of it? Then drugs will flourish and criminality will flourish in one province or in one state or in one region. What about traffic?
But why do they need to convince you when it seems that you've made up your mind?
Not really. The problem is
You're still
they
open.
keep on talking about federalism, but there's really nothing in it. It's a concept that hasn't really been thoroughly threshed out. And it's not as if they want us to vote on it in a few months. I don't think that will happen.
Yeah, so you don't think it's going to happen. Is that safe to say, sir?
Not until after 2019, if at all it will happen.
Okay, but the problem here, or sorry, not the problem, the situation is this. It's a draft constitutional,
Agreed.
it's a draft constitution rather, that was passed through, was given to the Senate President, was given to the Speaker, and you were supposed to look into this and add or subtract what you feel needs to be put in or removed from this draft constitution.
I read
How
it.
bad is that?
I read it. And actually, the Senate has conducted, I think, about 5 or 6 hearings on it already. So it's moving. But it cannot be rushed either. And I
Okay.
don't think we have enough time before the 2019 election.
Let me ask you this. You've read it. How would you describe it?
Maliban dun sa mga ibang maling punctuation at
In the substance, sir. What was, if anything, wrong with it?
a lot of questions, actually. They changed a lot of things, and I don't know where it came from. I'm not questioning their integrity, their wisdom, but a lot of questions, especially given the fact that we don't see any records of debates. That's the significant part about, for example, Congress and the Senate having a journal or a record. You know where the provision came from. You know how it came about. In this particular instance, a lot of questions would be asked. And the questions asked by Secretary Domingo are actually very poignant. Who will pay the national debt? You only have 2 choices there. Impose higher taxes or appropriate and apportion the debt respectively to each region. So nagsisimula pa lang yung mga region, may utang
meron na kayong kailangan bayaran na utang.
Or nagrereklamo na tayo sa train ngayon and it's causing inflation, and then you will add more taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, those are basic, simple questions that need to be addressed and answered. Really.
What should be done with the CONCOM draft, therefore?
It's the first time that someone actually studied the 1987 Constitution. So let that percolate. Let that be seen and read by many experts in the various sectors and stakeholders, and let them give their inputs.
Which it's exactly what they want you to do, sir.
And that's also what we're doing. Again, we've conducted 6 hearings, 5 or 6 hearings already. But not to postpone the elections like what we heard from the former speaker and then do it before the 2019 elections. No, definitely not.
Are you inclined to possibly come together as a constituent assembly to discuss this, sir?
Again, that's rushing it. That's rushing it, Pinky. A constituent assembly which we doubt we will be able to finish before the 2019 elections, and after the 2019 elections you have a totally new composition in the Senate, totally new composition in the House, and then you have to start from the beginning. You can say, since we started Articles 1 to 5, let's continue with
from
Article
there.
6.
No.
Even if it's an ordinary bill, you have to
zero.
start from scratch anyway.
And let's put this in, Senator, by 2019, you will cease becoming a senator.
Kaya hindi ko na pwedeng sabihin kung ano mangyayari.
Oo nga. Kasi hindi ka na parte ng Senate.
Yes.
You
Yes.
will, that's your second term.
Yes.
As a senator, and you will run for what?
I don't know yet, actually. Either running local or not running at all.
Okay. Before we leave the subject, I also wanted to bring this in. You have Secretary Delfin Lorenzana saying that I think the word he used was confusing. Earlier, NEDA Secretary Pernia said that this could wreak havoc to the economy. Just in simple terms, sir, for us to understand, what kind of impact, if anything, would federalism have to the economy? in your opinion?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet, quite frankly, because again, our economy is doing well, one of the best performing economies in Asia. So why change it?
Yeah.
And why increase the bill, so to speak, in running government? I thought we wanted a smaller government, a more efficient government. This increasing the size of government. If an ordinary businessman has to deal with the barangay captain, the mayor, the governor, the congressman, national government agencies for permits or what have you, you will add another layer.
Yeah.
And the rules can also be different for different regions.
Yeah.
So the color coding scheme might be different from Region 1 and Region 2. So as soon as you cross the boundary, it's a different color coding scheme. There will be different rules if you have a chain of restaurants, a chain of stores, or anything for that matter.
Is that so alien to you, sir? I mean, that happens abroad in federal states.
Well, I don't do business both here or abroad.
No, I mean, I just, you know, it's
No,
something
it's not
that...
alien, but it's difficult as it is now and here and today, given us a unitary government. It'll be even more difficult when that time comes. And last point on PG and federalism. Our closest experiment to federalism is CAR and ARM, BOL now. CAR doesn't even exist yet. It lost in about 2 or 3 plebiscites, and it still does not exist after over 30 years of this constitution.
ARMM.
The ARMM, we're still amending it up to today. So it's still not perfect. So if we can't even perfect it in 2 regions in the country, why do it in the entire country? Why not show that we can do it first in these 2 regions and then learn from the mistakes of those experiences and apply it here and now?
If you talk that way, sir, then what are your thoughts on this 90 million supposedly allocated for information dissemination?
That's what I was asking. Since it's a draft, what will they disseminate? Shouldn't we disseminate something that's final, something that's etched in stone, something that will be voted upon by the people, not something that can completely change and whose shape, size, and form would be completely alien and different from that which was proposed by the Consultative Commission?
Therefore, the education campaign, if anything, sir, must be done after a final draft has been put
If
forward.
at all, yes, because if they conduct an information dissemination campaign on this and then Congress totally changes it, for
Yeah.
example.
What's the point?
So what happened to
It's
our
a
90 million?
waste of resources. Well, you have Senator Grace Poe talking about the budget of the PCOO and also Congressman Tom Villarin. Let me just do a back-to-back sound bites of the senator and the congressman.
Kung babawasan ang mga ahensya na to na nakakatulong sa ating mga kababayan, bakit tataasan ang isang ahensya katulad ng PCOO? Ngayon, importante ang komunikasyon, pero nung klaseng communication?
Well, we can augment that RH budget from the budget of PCOO. No? So, by cutting down to 0 the budget of PCOO proper, we could have something around 355 million. No? That can be used more, not just efficiently, but more effectively as it affects millions of Filipinos and at least 2 million every year of women of reproductive health.
Let's talk about the budget, sir. What are your
Yes,
thoughts
ma'am.
on that?
We're beginning deliberations on the budget already. It seems it hit a snag in the House. They stopped conducting hearings, but I think, as far as I know, they're going to have a meeting with the DBM today to find out exactly how they will go about the budget, which definitely went down insofar as fiscal space is concerned. In fact, Pinky, it's the first time in the history of the country, I believe. I asked them this, and I
You
think
said
they agreed, that the budget actually went down year on year. It usually increases, Pinky, equivalent to the amount of growth we're targeting. So for example, if you're targeting a 6% growth, you should factor in population growth, which stands at 1.7, inflation, which is at 5.7, so that'll be 7.4. If you increase the budget by 7.4%, straight computation, no outside factors, our economy will be flat. It won't grow. So if you want to grow by 7%,
Dagdagan mo na.
then you have to increase the budget by 14.4%. You want to grow by 6%? No, because that's just compensating for inflation and population growth.
That's a very easy way of trying to understand that.
That's the easiest way of looking at it, although there are many factors to consider. But
It's just a simplified version. But help us understand the 2019 budget, cash-based or obligation-based. Ano ba ibig sabihin?
cash-based basically means if you can only spend 50,000 of a 100,000 obligation-based budget, then we'll just give you 50,000. You don't have 2 years to spend the 100,000. You have a year to spend the 50,000. So all of the agencies across the board, their budgets went down. But for me, Pinky, that's not the solution to underspending. That's not the solution to a low absorptive capacity. The solution is to find the choke points, to find the problem areas, why implementation is not as fast as it should be, instead of simply giving you less money because you can spend it anyway.
But in a very realistic way, I think it was Budget Secretary Ben Diokno who said that first year is that you allocate. The second year is that you get prospective contractors. Third year is then you pay them. And then the fourth year is the implementation.
That's not true. That's not true.
Or did I misquote him? But he said something to that effect, sir.
That's not true. For example, DepEd school building program, problems and implementation are associated with, number one, titling of DepEd lands. They're not allowed by COA anymore to construct a school building on land that's not titled in DepEd's name. Two, soil testing. They want to make sure that the buildings, since we're constructing 2, 3, 4-story buildings, so address that, fund that, so that the school building program will be implemented faster.
I see. All right.
What they did was from 106 billion this year, they reduced it to 34 billion. I don't think that's right. I would have thought if 1 billion cannot be completed this year, then I expected to see 10 100 million projects. Or they would have reallocated it to fast-moving projects of either DepEd, DPWH, DOH, DSWD, and not to simply cut down the budget. That's the basic issue, actually, that we're asking the DBM.
But what is the stand of the Senate on the 2019 budget?
What do you mean by the stand?
How are you seeing this pushing forward?
It's going to be a problem in allocation because, Pinky, we passed Train 2. Saying that it's for the build program.
You passed Train 1.
Sorry, Train 1. Supposedly on the build program. The DPWH budget went down by 100 billion. The infrastructure program of the Department of Health went down from 60 billion or 40 billion to 0. The school building program of DepEd went down, as I said earlier, from 106 billion to 34.
So how is that?
So where is the build? So that's the basic question.
Yeah, which needs to be answered, huh?
Which needs to be answered. And they're assuming they give a lower budget, that the agencies can actually implement it 100%. But what if they don't? So it's even lower than what they were able to do in the previous year or this year.
This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Still to come, the Senate launches a probe on the controversial tourism ad deal. Senator Chiz Escudero shares his thoughts after the break. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Senator Chiz Escudero. So, train law. First, Senate Majority Leader Mig Zubiri saying nobody even wants to touch it with a 9-foot pole. And then you have the Senate President filing a resolution on Train 2. Sir,
a bill, actually.
A bill, sorry. A bill on Train 2. Paano ho kaya yan?
I don't know, because last time I talked to Senator Sani, he has no plans of hearing it, so I don't know what their conversation with senators on it. The basic problem, Piggy, here is we were given assurances when we were deliberating on Train 1 that it will go to build, number one. That it will not be inflationary.
4%. Sabi nila, hindi aabot ng 4% ang inflation.
Number two, so many commitments, so many things that they told us which did not pan out. So really, they should not be surprised if senators have reservations about Train 2 because none of the things they told us actually became true.
May I just be direct? If none, a lot of the commitments were not fulfilled, why would you even have reservations? Why can't it just be an absolute no for Train 2, sir?
It's actually, because according to them, it's revenue neutral. So we told them, if it's revenue neutral, then why are we rushing it?
Bakit minamadali?
This bill is supposed to be the rationalization of fiscal incentives bill. We're giving so many incentives that actually run counter to each other, and companies end up enjoying more than what they should be enjoying. And to sweeten the deal, it includes a provision that would lower corporate income tax to, I think, 25% in the first year.
To also attract, more
I
businesses
completely agree with that. But, for example, Pinky, ang tatama ang mga industriya nito, mga the usual na pinagkukunan natin ng foreign currency like
Yeah.
BPOs.
Yes.
In fact, you have the specter. That's why I told Secretary Dominguez, you should fix your own house first because you have the specter of PESA objecting to your proposal on Train 2. I mean, come on, you belong to one executive department. Get your acts together, give us a common presentation. In fact, sometime this week, we got a request, our office got a request from PESA itself and from the locators of PESA
That
in relation to the proposed Train 2. Presumably, they will oppose it. Presumably, they will object to
I
it.
see.
But they
because
should
it
first...
obviously affects their operation.
Yes,
something.
but the PESA head was appointed by the president.
Is
It's
the
under
PESA head Attorney Lambino? No.
No.
No. That's
He's the CESA head.
CESA, yeah.
The PESA head is under DTI. So
I
they
see,
should
okay.
talk first
They should talk among themselves
and
first.
present a common stand to the Senate when they push for any bill.
Okay, the one hearing today, it's by the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, I believe Senator Richard Gordon, on the tourism deal, sir. 60 million in ads, but you were correcting me a while ago, it's at 60.
Now, according to Senator Gordon, it's actually higher, over 100 million. We discussed that in our caucus yesterday.
Yes, there was a caucus yesterday, sir. 100 million what, sir?
Million in ads.
That,
Given by DOT to PTV4.
not just by the show of the Tulfos.
No,
Tama
I
ho
think it
ba?
was given to PTV4
As a
and then
whole.
PTV4. No, I think that's only for the program of Ben Tulfo.
100 plus?
I think so. That'll come out in the hearing, I guess.
Okay. And your
today.
initial thoughts on this? I know you will be rushing to get out of here to attend the hearing, sir. We thank you for coming. Just the same.
The basic issue is conflict of interest, actually. I think those who are against this deal would highlight the fact that there is conflict of interest. And on the part of former Secretary Teo and Ben Tulfo, they need to show that there was none. I don't know if there was a check signed by Secretary Teo directly addressed to her brother. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if there is, that will be very difficult to
But if
explain.
there's none,
If there's none,
meron ho bang justification that it's not conflict of interest? After all, it is the tourism department placing an ad in a show. I mean, I'm taking out the outside factors. In a show in PTV4.
per se, no. But it still should be questioned because why are you placing a tourism ad on PTV4 higher than the international television stations, higher than the other local TV stations that have a broader and wider viewership than PTV4?
I see.
Although fine, it's a government station. It's from one pocket
True.
to another.
Which is understandable.
Understandable, but it does not in any way promote tourism in the country. I mean,
Okay.
at the end of the day, they will have to answer conflict of interest. It may be immoral from the point of view of other people, but they have to withstand the test of conflict of interest because immorality really is not punishable by law, but conflict of interest is.
Should they return the money?
If it is found to be violative of the conflict of interest rule, definitely yes. If it is immoral, it now depends on the person if they should, but if it is, then I think they should still.
All right. So we will...
Rather he, not they, he.
Oh, kasi una na ngang sinabi ni Mr. Tulfo that he was going to return according to
His lawyer.
attorney. Actually, it's not his lawyer. Attorney Ferdinand Topacio was the lawyer
Of Secretary Teo.
Secretary Juan de Teo. And then there was some miscommunication. Nagkagulo doon somewhere along the way. But yes, we will be airing that hearing a little later on, sir. It starts at 10. You will have enough time. Thank you
I
so
don't think so, but
No, you do, sir.
it's raining.
Hindi, sir, kasi wala naman traffic ngayon. But thank you for your time. Always a pleasure, sir. Maraming salamat po sa iyo kay Senator Chiz Escudero. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. When we return, a concept art on the proposed, you might want to see this, federal states. We'll give you a look on today's In Focus.